Hello, and welcome to Drawing with Selin. I'm Selin, and I'm going to be showing you how to draw digitally today. So today I'm going to be talking about using layers in digital drawing, which is one of the most, I think, basic and important things to know when you start digital drawing, is how to use layers and how to sort of develop your own workflow that takes advantage of the way that layers work in digital drawing software to make your drawing, easier. And yeah, let's get started. So right now I'm using Clip Studio Paint, which is drawing software that's it's very similar to Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. It's cheaper, it's a one-time payment rather than a subscription. And I just like using it because I heard about it from a friend and she said it was good, so I tried it out and I liked it too. There's a lot of free drawing software available online. Autodesk Sketchbook has some good software that's free to download. Krita is another program that's free to download too. The program that you use doesn't necessarily, I don't think it makes too much of a difference so long as you are comfortable using it. So really the best software is what's best for you. And the concepts can sort of translate to different programs as long as you read about how to use the program. Sort of concepts of layers, brushes, everything. It's quite similar across all platforms. So you can try getting comfortable or try out like different free software, see what works for you. And then if you want to invest in something a little bit, it could work too. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Today I'm going to be showing you layers. So right now I have this blank canvas in front of me and I have the pen tool selected. The pen tool is sort of just, basic pen tool. But if I'm sitting down to draw something for a few hours, I want to make something that's clean and good and kind of, cartoony. There's a whole sort of workflow that I follow. So over here, you have the layer pane, which just displays all of the layers in your drawing right now. And the default at the moment is a blank white paper background, and then a layer on top of that. Right now the layer is empty, there's nothing in it, but we can put something in it. So what I like to do when I'm drawing is I start out with a sketch. A sketch can be rough, it can be a little messy, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because point of a sketch is like if you're drawing something clean from it, you'll be hiding it afterwards and no one will see it. It's just sort of a guideline for the full drawing at the end. So right now I made my pen blue and I made it more opaque because it sort of acts more like a pencil this way. You can go over a line many times and make it darker, and gives you a little bit more freedom with just sort of being messy and being creative. I'm not going to do anything too complicated today just because I'm trying to show you how layers work rather than how to actually draw something. So for the moment I'm just going to be I'll draw a cat, just basic cat head. Doesn't have to be too fancy. And there we go. So this is my sketch. If you're trying to be a little bit more serious about drawing, you can add like guidelines down the middle and everything, but this isn't a tutorial on how to draw cats. This is a tutorial on using layers. So I have the sketch layer. I'm going to name the layer sketch. I don't always name my layers, but it is something that can be helpful because when looking at the layer pane right now, I can't really tell what's on the layer here. So yeah, so what I did was I added a layer on top of that. And now what I'm going to do is draw over the sketch with some black ink, or with a pen that's a little bit thinner and darker. And these lines are the ones that are actually going to show up in my final drawing. So I'll just draw over the sketch. One thing that I find helpful is sometimes I like to zoom in a little bit, because when you zoom in, you get a little bit more precision with your drawing. Now, one thing that's helpful, see, it's a little bit hard to see here. You can change the opacity of each layer, And what this does, in a little bit more of a more complicated drawing, can help you distinguish between, you know, where one layer ends and another one begins. So right now I've selected the sketch layer and I'm changing the opacity to 50%. So it's much easier to sort of see where my black lines are versus where my blue lines are. So I'm just going to close this up again. Oh, okay, I'm drawing on the wrong layer right now. Make sure that you pick the right one. Just closing up my lines. I'm not making it too perfect because this is really just showing you how to, use layers in your workflow more than anything. So now we have this drawing of a cat. And to color it in, you're going to want to make a new layer between the outline and the sketch. So I'm just going to name this outline. And then if you select your bottom layer and add a new one, it's going to show up between the two layers. So now we have this new layer called color. And we can feel free to color the drawing here without disturbing the lines on the top layer. So for here, you can actually hide your sketch layer now. So you're just working with your outline. And then you can select the color layer and then start coloring in your drawing. I'm just going to pick a completely random color at the moment because I'm just trying to make a point right now. But see, now you can color behind it and you don't have to worry about disturbing any of these lines. Now there's a bucket tool as well. These bucket tools work very differently depending on the drawing software. In Clip Studio, you have to set the layer as a reference layer, so like the top layer with the outline, so that the bucket tool looks at that layer to decide where it should be filling in lines. I'm not sure if any other drawing programs work the same way, but chances are if you're working with multiple layers, you will have to assign one to use as a reference when you're using your bucket tool. This is worth checking out in any tutorials on the specific drawing software you're using. But here I can just fill in my cat like this, and now it's all filled in. From here you can do a lot of things. You can add shadows. Adding shadows can just be as simple as making a new layer above the color layer, lowering, like making your brush a little darker, and then just, adding some shadows. There are more complicated ways of doing it, using layer masks and such, but I think that's the subject of a different tutorial. Right now I'm just adding some shadows just to show you that it's, it's possible to do this. So by the time you're done your drawing, you end up having a bunch of layers here, and your sketch layer is not visible. I mean, it could be visible if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. And the advantage to using layers is that now that you have everything on separate layers, you can sort of edit different things one at a time. Like, let's say if your shadows are too dark or too light, you can change the brightness in the program. So over here, if I go to edit and tonal correction, I can make this layer a little brighter or a little darker, and I don't have to worry about affecting the rest of the drawing. Likewise, if I want to make my outline a little less opaque, I can do that. I can change that in the layer panel without affecting the whole drawing. So it's good because when you draw, sometimes you don't end up with something that's completely perfect at the end and you want to, fix little things, and it makes it a lot easier to tweak if you have everything in separate layers. So hope this tutorial was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.